All right, so here we go. We're going to pick up World War II. We've already learned a little bit about fascism, which started in Italy but kind of spread to Germany. Check a look at this map. You can see there have been some changes since World War One has ended. This is 39 after Hitler started to spread his tentacles out. There is no Czechoslovakia. There's no Czech part of it anymore. He's taken that. There's no Austria anymore. He's taken that. And what we're going to see today is he's going to spread even further. The Soviet Union, the USSR, is over here. They're a communist country trying to spread their power out as well. And there's going to be a real trouble for the world because what's going to happen is those two knuckleheads are going to get together. Hitler and Stalin. Stalin is the leader of the Soviet Union. They signed what's called the Non-Aggression Pact. And what that basically means is they promise not to attack each other. This is a secret agreement. It goes completely against the League of Nations rules. And one of the things they decide is, hey, what's right between us? The only thing really between us is Poland. So let's split Poland in half, and we promise we won't fight each other. Well, they do just that. I love this political cartoon where it says someone is taking someone for a walk. Here's Hitler, Stalin doing a three-legged race, but they both have a pistol and they know they've got it for each other because fascists hate communists. They hate the thought of it and that sort of thing. So the fact that these guys have gotten together spells trouble for the world. Well, Hitler brings trouble to the world. He had been appeased for too long. They'd let him get away with stuff, signed agreements with him, and that kind of thing. That's why he'd taken all that territory. Well, he had made a promise to the German people that he was going to take back old German territories. At this point in time, East Prussia is part of Germany. And this was one of the original parts of the Germanic people, but separated from the regular part of the country by the Polish corridor and what's called the Free City of Danzig, which is now Gdansk, Poland. Well, Danzig was a free city doing their own thing. Well, here come the Germans first go in and take over there, and then on September 1st, 1939, they invade Poland. And that is what actually starts the First World War. That is when, that's on September 1st, September 3rd, British and the French declare war on Germany. Germany's ready for that. He annexes the western half of Poland, and he does that through this new fighting tactic called the Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg literally translates lightning war. Fast-moving airplanes flying over, bombing and strafing with machine guns and stuff like that. And then they move in with tanks and massive infantry forces right after that, just taking huge swaths of territory, one right after the other. And remember, World War I was a total static trench warfare style of fighting where everybody stayed in the same place. Not World War II. The technology has changed in just the 20 years since the First World War. And the fact that Hitler even had all of this equipment goes to show that he had completely ignored the Treaty of Versailles and the things that he wasn't supposed to be doing with Germany having a military, all that kind of stuff. So he's gone crazy. He's taken over Poland. He's started a war with the French and the British, and he's going to turn his sights towards the French very shortly. But before he gets into that, we'll talk about the fact that the Soviets do the same sort of thing. I'll show you where they are. They're over here. Well, they take their eastern part of Poland. They also take over Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Then they invade Finland. They consider Finland part of their territory, so they invade Finland. The Finns actually fight much better and much more organized than the Polish did. Of course, they weren't surrounded like the Poles were. But they fail. The British had supposedly started preparing some forces to go help them, but they didn't. The French, same way, but they didn't. So nobody goes and helps them. So the Soviet Union spreading their power, the Nazi Germany spreading their power, and nobody's going to stop them. Well, the British show up to stop them, and things don't go well. The Germans are more prepared for war, and they basically corner the British in this little area of Belgium and France and right on the English Channel. Now, the Germans attack so quickly, and I'll show you, they do the same sort of thing. They're going to roll right through here. This is the Netherlands. This is Belgium. They're going to do the Schlieffen Plan from World War I, roll right through the Low Country into here. But they also went through this area right here, which is dense forest, but then not this area. This area was something that the French had set up as a defensive fortification called the Maginot Line. Oh, we got all these trenches and concrete bunkers and all this other stuff. The Germans ignore it. They flew planes over top of it, bombed it, roll in with their heavy equipment and take it over and then use the French's forces against them. They roll into Belgium and they're rolling up the Allied forces like a carpet. And at the point that we're at right now, what you see on this map is that the British are pinned down on the beach. And I'm not just saying the British like there's a few guys, there's over 300 some thousand troops pinned on the beach. If the Germans get to them, force them to surrender, and take them prisoner, the British are done. And the war really is over before it starts. So they've got them surrounded, they've got them pinned in, but the British do something that is so British it's not even funny. They don't just bring the Royal Navy, which was powerful and impressive. This is only 20 miles. This is England right here. They bring everything. They bring civilian craft. They bring fishing boats. They bring trawlers, tugboats, yachts, whatever you got. And these people roll over here by the hundreds to load up however many troops. You see them loading up however many they can get and taking them back across, making multiple trips, all this kind of stuff. By the time they're done, 338,000 British soldiers are carried to safety. And by doing so, they preserve their army so that they'll actually be able to fight against the Germans again. But it doesn't help France. Their army gets rolled up, basically crushed. Next thing you know, by June 14th of 40, the Germans are in Paris. By June 22nd, the French have surrendered. The Germans take over and keep the Paris and the northeastern part of France, and then the southern part of France and the other French territories, they turn into what's called the Vichy government. Hitler's not on vacation here. He has literally taken over France, and the supposed French government is actually working for the Germans, and they do everything the Germans tell them to do. So he's able to turn to and turn against completely the British. So here he goes. He's going to try to pound the British into submission. Boom, boom, boom. Nighttime bombing raids on London. All of the people, the population of London sleeps in the subway system every night because they come and bomb every night, starting in September of 1940, all the way till May of 41. But the British never quit. The British don't ever quit, and Hitler finally just gives up. But the devastation is huge. But it basically solidifies the attitude basically of the British that they are in this for the long haul. So Hitler does something that's even crazier. He turns against the Soviets in this thing called Operation Barbarossa, which is him planning and going out of his areas in Poland that he's taken over and attacking the USSR. Remember, they'd signed this Non-Aggression Pact. Sucker, you fell for it. Here I come. Now, two of the major things to recall out of this, the Soviets are not a strong army. They're poorly trained, poorly equipped, and the Germans are kind of kicking the snot out of them. When they get up here to Leningrad, they have the city surrounded. 2.5 million, I think, civilians, and the Nazis basically just starve them to death. They can't get any supplies in. 1 million die, but the city refuses to quit, and eventually the Nazis back off and go away because they turn towards Moscow. Anybody remember Napoleon? Moscow, wintertime. These things don't work out very well. The Germans start to freeze. They lose almost 500,000. They lose 500,000 soldiers and don't really gain anything. And it's also proven to the point that Germany is out of control, so much so that the United States realizes that they're going to have to do something at this point as well. And so FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the President of the United States, signs an agreement called the Lend-Lease Act in 41, saying that we can support and give supplies to any country that's vital to the United States. It's an excuse for us to support the British. And then later on, what's called the Atlantic Charter is signed. This is agreement between FDR and there's Churchill, the leader of the Prime Minister of the UK, basically saying that we're in this together. They're supporting free trade and the rights for people to choose their own governments and all this other stuff. It's basically a reason for them to be able to work in cahoots together. At this point, the president orders the United States Navy to fire on any German U-boats they see because U-boats have fired on U.S. ships. And we're basically in an undeclared naval war already with Hitler in the Atlantic. So why do you think President Franklin Roosevelt wants to help the Allies? Why do you think that is? Why not stay neutral?